On Issues at Hand this morning, we're having a conversation about how the electricity landscape and energy landscape in Uganda is changing with concessions coming to an end. We saw the concession with Umeme come to an end. Then we are also seeing that the concession with Eskom is ending as well, and government is taking back the reins as far as electricity generation is concerned. And we are going to discuss what that means for Uganda moving forward and what is happening on the ground right now. And with me to tackle this issue today and to talk about this subject is Mr. Solom Muyita, who makes his return to Issues at Hand. He is a spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. Thank you for coming back to Issues at Hand once again. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Uganda.
Indeed. Now, according to reports that the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited is set to take over from Eskom when it comes to the running of Kira and Nalubale power plants. Now, I would like you to take us through, and what does this mean? That means that the concession between the Ugandan government and Eskom Company Limited has come to an end. So take us through what this means, and also how the history between the Ugandan government and Eskom and this concession that's coming to an end.
Oh, thank you very much. Government has been undertaking reforms in the electric energy sector. It started with unbundling of UEB then. 1999, UEB was found not to be efficient. So that's the time when we had massive power blackouts. We didn't have enough capacity. We had only 60 megawatts of power. And it was the same company doing everything: generation, transmission, and distribution. And the network, accessibility was low at about 6%. And that wasn't a good thing for the country. So the government decided to change the strategy to unbundle, to make UEB, break it into ERA, which is the regulator, UEGCL, the generator, UETCL, the for transmission of power, bulk power, and then UEDCL for distribution. But even after that, that came around 2000, 2002. It didn't exactly give us what we wanted. So the government realized there was need for intensive capitalization into the power sector. So we needed to bring in a bit of private players with private capital to invest into the sector. And, we decided to run it like a business. So government decided to make it, to give 20-year concessions to private companies. And Eskom Uganda was the first to handle the generation. Remember that time we had only the famous Owen Falls Dam, which since changed to Nalubale Dam. And there was a new dam under construction just next to it, which is now called Kira Power Station. Those two were handed to Eskom to manage and operate for over a 20-year period, starting in 2003 April. Later, we brought on board Umeme in about 2005. Umeme was supposed to run the largest component of the distribution, about 90% of the distribution network, predominantly in the urban areas. There are smaller companies running the rural areas, including UEDCL, the state distribution company. But towards the end of last year, to be precise, in October, Cabinet made a decision that it's not going to renew the concessions when they expire. Eskom was to expire this month of this year, in March 2023, and Umeme will expire in 2025 March. The reasoning behind this is, yes, these companies came, they've done so much, they've invested in the sector, the network is now more reliable. reliable. So the blackouts are a thing, you know, that has really been taken away. You can get a blackout once in 2 months, and usually it would be due to a local problem. Maybe your area transformer got a bit of technical issues, or someone has vandalized the line somewhere, and those are quickly fixed and people enjoy power. We are like the developed countries that never see blackouts. Yeah, so things have improved, but one thing has failed to go away: the issue of cost of power. Cost of power, connection is expensive, the tariffs are expensive. And what has driven the cost high is because we've been using private capital, which is expensive. You know, these companies are borrowing money from all over the place. The money comes, first of all, they pay it back in dollars. So every time the dollar goes up, even that, you know, it affects the tariff. And also, the loans are they get them expensively, and also they also need a return on their investment. So a combination of all that, because they have structures, they have a bit of expatriates in their structures, they are paid highly, you know, operation costs are high, and so on. So government had to come back and address that too. So the strategy is, let's get away the expensive operators and let's create a Ugandan company. Because one, the network is now more reliable, more efficient. Two, our people have been trained. You know, these companies have been here for 20 years. They've helped train Ugandans. So that decision was taken, and yesterday we witnessed the transfer of the very first facilities, the 380 megawatt facility at Jinja, the former Owen Falls Dam, where we have Nalubali Power Station, which is 200 megawatts, and Chida Power Station, which is 180 megawatts. They were handed back to the government. My ministers were there to receive and also hand over to Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited, which is going to operate them on behalf of the government. Good thing, all the people, about 93% of the former workers of Eskom have been hired back to continue with their jobs, but under UEGCL, and these are Ugandans, and they are competent, they understand the facility, they know the ins and outs of the facility. So we are able to take the facility from one company to another without, so we will not, we the users of the power will not get any sort of interruption, because it's the same team that is going to manage forward. So come Saturday, yesterday was the official handover, but the Eskom will finally, you know, hand over at midnight on Friday night, or what we can call Saturday morning. At midnight, they will hand over. Eskom will cease, completely cease, and April 1st, UEGCL is supposed to fully take charge of everything at our dams. And it's a good thing when Ugandans take over. So going forward, we are going to be expecting the government to capitalize, because even Eskom said the facilities are not just for operating. You have to keep investing, because these are machines, they break down, they need servicing, regular servicing, they need upgrades. Remember that dam in Jinja, Nalubale, come next year it will be 70 years old. So it is a facility that was put up by the colonialists in 1954. You need to service it. The technology is a bit older, so you need to keep replacing the older parts. You need to play in a bit of new technology, and you need to have funds. You need to have money to keep investing in so that it can operate. Eskom told us yesterday that it, when it took over, the Naluvale, had less than 10 years of life, but with the upgrades and, proper maintenance, they've managed to enhance the life of the plant to 30 years. At least the next 30 years, we are sure it can continue operating. But again, with more investment, that life could still be enhanced. Then Kira, which had below 20 years to operate, now the life was enhanced to 50 years ahead. So it's a good thing. We are on the right course, and we believe that the Uganda's power sector can only get better.
Indeed. Now, what's going to happen between now and, well, Saturday morning in terms of the transfer process? What will it look like?
The CEO of UEGCL informed the country yesterday that interview processes went on successfully, and the staff of Eskom were found to be competent, almost all of them. The people who, the 7% that did not go through, may not have gone through just not because they are not competent, but maybe the structure that UEGCL has chosen to take on, because we were told they are largely security people. Probably Eskom had a bigger security team, and UEGCL is looking at having a leaner team, because UGCL has also been managing other facilities like Isimba, and there are also examples of Jagali, and UGCL is involved in Karuma. So from that experience, I think they know that you need a structure that looks like this or that. Yeah, but he said, Engineer Harrison Mutikanga said, come Thursday, everyone will have their appointment letters.
And something that's part of the transfer process is, as I understand, there's a buyout involved. Now, according to the concession, if the concession was to be ended by the Ugandan government, we owe Eskom to a tune of $12 million. And so is this something that's going to be done as soon as possible? Because this is a huge amount of money. How is this buyout going to be handled? And is there any auditing process that is involved in it?
Yes. The government of Uganda is well aware that, the private player invested their money. And the good thing, the Electricity Regulatory Authority has been authorizing or approving all investments into the plant. So including the budgets, including the upgrades, everything that gets in has to undergo an approval process. So we know, the ERA knows how much has been invested. The auditing process started last year, just to confirm that what we approved is what you invested in. It's pretty much concluded. It's pretty much known how much has been invested in. And recently, my minister was in Parliament trying to get a supplementary to clear. I believe the payment processes should be concluded within the week. Concluded. So by the time Eskom signs out, end of week, even government should be on a good page, because we planned. It was planned. The resources are known, and the payment, there is nothing else that would hold a payment process to Eskom. And we are wishing them well. Yesterday, my minister, the sector minister, Honorable Okasai Opolot, said that Eskom, much as they are handing back the facilities in Jinja, he said maybe it's not the last time we are working together, because there are quite a number of other power projects coming up, and given that this company has already experience in the sector, they may want to come and take up one of those. We have Ayago, we have the nuclear power plant coming, we have a number of projects in Uganda. You know, we have only, with Karuma coming online later this year, we expect our megawatts built capacity to go to 2,000 megawatts. But that's not all that we are, you know, targeting to get. Our target is to have 40,000 megawatts by 2040, and we are in 2023. So what we need to do over the next 17 or 16 years is so many times what we've done over the past 70 years. So you need a number of experienced players, you know, the companies that have the reputation to run such projects. They need to have the experience, they need to have the capacity, and you know, when you have a company you've dealt with for over 20 years, then you don't have a lot of background checks to do on the company. So the minister said they could take on another project, because under the new law we are targeting also to do what we call a PPP, public-private partnerships. So, but the model we are going to run this time is going to have government taking the lead, not private sector taking the lead. So even where we do joint ventures, government will have the majority shares, maybe 51%. And then the private players have the minority of about 49%. The whole idea is when government takes the lead, we are able to manage to control the cost of power, because it's also in our interest to make sure that our power, much as we produce it, we should be able to consume it. And the cost of the power is a great factor in ensuring that our people utilize the power we produce.
Indeed. Now, you spoke about capacity. Now we are in celebratory mood. Like you said, we want to take back the reins of this sector, especially as far as the costs are concerned. But as we celebrate, do we have the capacity? For example, in this case, does the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited have the capacity to ensure that the operations of these facilities are up to par, up to standard? Because like you said, Eskom come out to say that it's not just operations, but you have to invest more, especially on upgrading and other things. And yes, you have just said that the idea will be their public-private partnerships, and for instance, government will be in control, will have the majority of the shares, as then other private actors will have shares as well. But still, with us, with government having the majority of shares, will government still have the capacity to invest in these projects and in these dams and in these, especially when it comes to this case of Kira and Nalubali and other power plants?
The answer is yes, because we've seen a lot of technology transfer. Our people have been trained. They've been exposed to, you know, to a lot of training in country and outside the country. They've been taken to larger facilities in South Africa and other countries to learn how to operate the equipment. So over 95% of the staff at Eskom Well, these were Ugandans. And they are still here with us. So in terms of skills or the know-how, we are there. And our people are not going away. We were quick to interview them, and we are offering them jobs.
No, that's in terms of skills, but what about in terms of funding and
yes,
financing?
I'm getting there. And we are also going to pay them very well. UEGCL pays well. Now, in terms of finances, the president has made an assurance that we are able to get part of the taxes we collect and invest into the sector, but also we should be able to, we successfully got Bujagali under a PPP and arrangement. Now, Bujagali came a bit expensively because it was the first. It was the first we were doing. But now we have an experience of Karuma. Bujagali was a PPP. Karuma has been put up on a loan from Exim Bank, China. And Karuma, with Karuma and Isimba, we were able to cut down the cost to below a half of what we got for Bujagali. So you're going to get your Karuma at about 4 US cents per unit. Bujagali was a bit high at about 11 or so. So now we are able to negotiate better. So you can, if we can't find the resources, when we have our own resources, it will be a lot cheaper because you don't have to pay interest, you don't have to be affected by the exchange rate and so on. And the way government has been managing other big projects, we've been able to mobilize our own money to implement big projects. So I'm sure even for the power sector, we should be able to find the resources, and we know what we need. We need about $5 billion US between now and 2030 to run the various projects. And the government cannot fail to find such money. At least we know that that's what we require strategically. So whether we get it from our own resources as a country, maybe from our taxes, we are increasing the tax base, we are able to, to prioritize. We know that power, electricity is a big driver of the economy. So we should be able to prioritize and invest that money there. We cannot fail to find that money. But with competing priorities, we should also be able to, if we can't find the resources within government, we should be able to find cheap loans, or we should be able to find private players that are willing to invest the money under a PPP arrangement, and we are able to negotiate with them so that that investment comes cheaply. Now we have the experience to negotiate, and we know what we want. We know what we want. It's not a thing of, trying out. We are no longer kugezesa because we've worked with these farms for over 20 years. Now we know. Bujagali has been there. We know the experience of the Bujagali model. We know the experience of the Karuma model, Isimba model. Now we have the Eskom model. They are different in a way, but at least we know. By the way, Eskom has invested in money, but they've helped us lower the tariff. Now that is the cheapest you can find on the market. It's below 2 US cents. Karuma is 4 US cents, but Eskom is below 2 US cents. So Eskom, the facilities in Jinja have helped us balance the cost of the tariff, because Bujagali is expensive, Isimba is a bit in the middle there. Then you play in a bit of Narubale Chira, which is cheap.
But that's so a bit confusing because earlier on, like how you have mentioned, we have been talking about how UEGCL has taken over. The concession has ended because we want to reduce on tariffs. So if it's not broken, why fix it? Because the tariffs have been low. Why would we then want to end something that has been profitable to our country?
Yes, they've been low, but still they can get lower. Because still, much as Eskom has helped keep it low, Eskom still invests, and they also invest at you know, they need to get their return on the investment. What has kept it low is because they took it on, it didn't have a loan. Nalubale was for the government, there was no loan on it. So the return on investment is not on the entire facility. The entire facility belongs to, it's the way you get a vehicle, you get your truck, you purchase your truck, and you give it to someone to operate, but all they are doing is the routine servicing and just operating it. But they are not paying for the cost of purchase. You know, that was already taken over by the government. So that is why the facility in Jinja has been operating, you know, is able to give us a cheaper tariff. But these other ones, you're going to pay for operation, maintenance, but also you're still paying for the facility itself. The 1.4 billion US dollars invested in Karuma, we shall have to pay it back. But also we shall pay for its operation and routine maintenance. That for quite some time. You have about 15 years to pay that. Between 10 and 15 years to pay that. That's the difference between Nalubale and the other new projects. So until after you clear the loan, then you're able to say we can set the tariff maybe below 2 US cents. Before that, you have to keep it where it is for all those years until you clear the loan.
Indeed, and we're going to continue to talk about this new development, especially on what it means to the Ugandan, what it means to the business owner, what it means in terms of electricity supply. And we are talking about the fate of Uganda's power supply and generation, as well as far as Eskom leaving Uganda is concerned, although according to the spokesperson of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, that's Mr. Solom Muyita, this might not be the end. There might be light at the end of the tunnel as far as Uganda's relationship with Eskom is concerned. But Eskom is handing over the reins to Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited, especially when it comes to the Chira and Nalubale power plants. Very interesting therein. But on the concession, did the ongoing troubles with Eskom and South Africa have any role to play in Uganda ending its concession with Eskom?
Nothing at all, no relationship at all.
Was it a cause for concern?
No, not at all. Because if that were the case, then Umeme wouldn't have been in the mix than the other players. We have other smaller companies that operate in the rural areas, you know, that you may not know. Pakmex, Chegegwa, Power Distribution Company, there are about 10 of them, smaller companies, but the decision we took also affects them. They also have to hand back to the government. So it is nothing to do with anything happening in South Africa. We have a good relationship with South Africa as a country. And South African businesses have been here. They've been thriving here. If it were not for COVID and so on, maybe big businesses like ShopRite, you've seen it here for quite some time. They were running quite a number of supermarkets, large supermarkets in the country. There are so many South African products coming here and services. So, and South Africa as a country is also coming back to sign big agreements with the country in the area of energy and nuclear. The president was down south recently, and there are commitments that are being put on paper. So Eskom has no fundamental, there are no issues with the government of Uganda, so they can still stay around. Even after this concession ending, they said they will maintain an office in Kampala to handle any outstanding issue that may arise, maybe with suppliers, maybe with, and around that, maybe they will be looking around for what else can we do in Uganda, and they are welcome.
Indeed.
We are not focusing on the other one has ended, but there are so many more, and the ministry, my ministry, is at the heart of the different programs. We can have a discussion, and who knows, maybe they can take on even something bigger.
Indeed. Now, as far as that's Eskom and South Africa, but coming back to Uganda, there might be people watching out there and wondering, how does this affect me? How does this a new reign in terms of the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited, what does it mean for every Ugandan, both those who may use electricity for purpose of domestic use and those who may use it for businesses and big industry?
This is how you should understand it. The government of Uganda the plan is to make power cheaper for you, the user of the electricity. The power should be available. The power should be efficient. The network should be efficient. The systems should run efficiently, meaning the power should not be going off when you need to use it. The power should reach more Ugandans. And the power should be affordable in terms of connection and usability. The tariff should be affordable, and the connection fees should be low. The government of Uganda is starting a new project next month called Electricity Access Scale-Up Project. And the intention of that is to extend power to more people. For it is going to be investment into distribution. So there are people who need power, but the poles are not in their area. So they will tell them, you apply, and the line will be extended. There are lines that were constructed, but they were not completed. So this project, there is funding from the World Bank, over 600 million US dollars. You see, Eskom, we are talking about 50 million US dollars over the past 20 years. Umeme over the past 20 years, we are talking about 550 US dollars. So we have a project which combines both Umeme and Eskom, and it's going to be one project, and it's starting next month. It is going to enhance the networks, make sure that more reliable transformers are purchased, more lines are extended towards the people that need the power, and also to make sure that connections are affordable. This project will even go beyond and support Ugandans to do some connections inside their houses, because we've seen that challenge when you go outside Kampala, the upcountry areas where we were running the rural electrification program. You find lines going through villages without anyone connecting, and you wonder, these people don't need power. But yeah, many of them have said they've had a challenge. Even the cost of running cables and switches inside their houses, people can't afford some of these things. So we are going to find a way of assisting even those people in critical areas. Have a connection, utilize your power. By the way, when we have more people connected to power, we collect more, and then we are able to pay back the loans. And also, government does not have to incur money to clear what we call deemed power. We have that problem of deemed power, deemed energy.
What's that?
It is, you see, when an investor comes and they agree with the government that they are going to put up a facility of this megawatts, there must be an assurance from the government that there will be market for that electricity. So whenever we don't find market for it, we pay for even power we've not utilized, because we made a promise to them. For them, they have a bank on their case, pay back. So you can't tell them to wait until they get the customer, because it's not their duty to take power to the people. It's the duty of the government. So the more we connect, the more we utilize, the more we get money. And we are expecting the number of the people connected to the national grid to double by 2030. And then we shall be driving for what we call universal access to electricity. Every Ugandan should be connected to electricity wherever they are. And then we need to be able to attract investors, because big-time investors need to be sure that there is power and in the quantities they want it, so that they can run their industries. And we are taking power to all sub-counties in the country. We are taking power to industrial parks. There are about 22 in different parts of the country. And the power we are taking to the industrial parks, we are taking it there at a lower cost, because we want the industries to be able to operate, but also afford the units. So we are taking the power there below at about 5 US cents. So there are quite a number of things we are doing. We are also trying to ensure that the old networks are, are upgraded. I think you've seen Umeme, UEDCL in different parts of the country, removing the old poles, putting new poles, and removing the old cables, replacing them with newer cables, bigger and newer cables. That is what we shall be doing to ensure that it is reliable. Transmission networks are being put up because we want all the power generating facilities to be able to connect to the national grid, and then the distribution to put up substations, and also we have reliable distribution networks picking from the substations and extending to the communities. So there is quite a lot going on. As we also look at the other sources of electricity, we want to develop the solar, electricity generated from solar, electricity generated from wind, electricity generated from nuclear, and other sources, because our target is to achieve 40,000 megawatts by 2040. And nothing should deter us from reaching or realizing that target.
Fantastic. Now, as we end our discussion for this morning, what would you like us to, especially as members of the public or in our different capacities and stakeholders in these, either service providers or as customers when it comes to electricity, what would you like us to do in terms of participation when it comes to the mandate of the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited as they take over the reins of Chira and Naluvali power plants from Eskom?
As a Ugandan out there, we, the government, the ministry, and the companies under the ministry, agencies under the ministry, we will do what we are mandated to do. But you, out there, connect to the power, utilize it, but most importantly, help us ensure that people don't steal the power, because power theft is a big issue, it's still a big issue in the country. We've also had issues of vandalism, so you need to be on the lookout in your community to ensure that people don't vandalize the network, because whenever they vandalize, they're actually taking power away from you in your community. Power is being taken off. When they cut the line bringing power to your community, it means you're going to be off. So we need to fight the vice. Someone vandalizing power infrastructure is like someone digging a big trench in a road. It means you'll not be able to cross from one side of the community to another. You'll not be able to go to your workplace. So even power helps people do businesses. People are running cottage industries, in their communities. You're able to do something with the power. You're able to do put up a milling facility. You're able to buy a fridge and sell cold drinks to your community, in your community. So imagine someone just switching you off just like that. So we need to be vigilant as Ugandans and support the government, realize this agenda. Report to your leader, report to your police station, or call us directly. Call us and come to us. But also you who doesn't have power, come to us and say, we have a challenge, we don't have enough resources, but we need the power. The project I have talked about will bring the power to you. So everyone has a role to play, and together we shall realize our dream of ensuring universal access to electricity in the country.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Solom Muyita, for taking us through what's happening as far as the developments in the electricity and energy sector. And thank you for reminding us that it's our role, as far as this development is concerned. We all have a role to play in this, and especially when it comes to the fact that we have to utilize the electricity on offer and also avoid vandalism. Thank you as well for joining us in Issues at Hand this morning, and we shall come back tomorrow. For now, ciao, God richly bless you, and enjoy the rest of the programming here on Church of Uganda Family TV.